cold outside and you got nobody to love.
So from the big bonuses of European bankers to high-flying hedge funds right here in the U.S., the SEC is now investigating expenses at hedge funds and private equity firms. You know, like all the private jets and the lavish conferences featuring A-list entertainment like Maroon 5, very high management fees, basically the normal way of doing business in the industry. But the thing is, the investors in these funds already know what they're paying for. So it's unclear why the government needs to get involved here. Here to break down both sides is Ed Butowski of Chapwood Investments and Jenice Malecki, a former FINRA arbitrator and chairperson and now securities attorney. Welcome to both of you. Ed, let me start with you.
Sure.
So we know that hedge funds and especially private equity roll really large in the G5 and the fabulous hotels and the whole thing. But they disclose it to their investors who are very sophisticated investors. That's part of the fee structure. If they objected to it, they just wouldn't invest with those folks, right?
Well, exactly. And not all of them do. I mean, you know, I actually have a hedge fund myself, and I don't have a G5, okay? And the majority of these
Are you flying coach? I don't think so.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay.
17C. But I know exactly what it is. But
Okay.
here's the point. This is a privately negotiated agreement that an investor makes with that fund. All right. It is private. They agree. And as long as it's fully disclosed, what role does the government have in this? It's a privately negotiated agreement between a wealthy individual or a small institution or even a large institution. It's private. The SEC has no role here.
Jenice, what about that? How does the SEC have the right to get involved in this?
The SEC absolutely has a role since 2011 in July when Dodd-Frank was enacted, because now hedge fund advisors have to actually register under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, which creates a fiduciary duty to investors. And one of the things regarding expenses that the SEC is looking at is what was actually disclosed, and are there sort of soft issues that aren't being disclosed?
Like what? I mean,
Certain-
they itemize the expenses. They show them what they have spent. That's disclosure.
Well, they haven't shown whether or not it's directly related to the management of the fund or whether it's, you know, some team building activity that may not directly benefit the investors.
Well, and that's true. As long as it's disclosed. I mean, you can't be writing off your BMW if it's not disclosed against a fund. And you're absolutely right. Since the Dodd-Frank, rule went into place, the law, these have to be, been registered. And the fiduciary, title that's been placed on this is very damaging. There's a lot of costs that go along with this, and it's really the SEC overreaching to try to meddle into everybody's business, and they don't necessarily have to be in everyone's business.
But Jenice, you talk about team building. A common thing that these funds do is they have offsites where they go together. They talk about investment ideas. They have presentations. They may bring in their limited partners. They bring in some of their biggest investors. Part of the lure, part of the way that they show off how well they're doing is by having it at a Four Seasons, by having Maroon 5 or whatever it is to have people there. Their investors are there. They know what they're getting into. They know that this money is not coming out of thin air. It's coming out of the fees that they're paying these people. And if they're not getting the returns, then they won't invest there. And maybe if it is so objectionable, somebody could set up a hedge fund that says, or a private equity fund, I am the low-cost alternative. I will fly coach. I will not stay at the Four Seasons. Invest in my hedge fund. And then that's competition. Why do you need the SEC?
Well, the SEC is looking at whether the disclosures were adequate. So that's one of the
things. Is that the
things.
only real issue? Was it disclosed or not?
Well, they're also looking at what's appropriate to charge, because
But
there are.
who's the SEC to make that determination when a privately negotiated contract is made? Do you want them meddling into every single
let her
part
respond,
of your
because she's not getting a talk here. Go ahead, Jenice.
The SEC is now involved because of Dodd-Frank and the Investment Advisor Act fiduciary responsibility. They now have a role to review what is going on. And one of the things that they're doing is they're going in to see what the fees and expenses are and whether they're really legitimate fees and expenses. I mean, it's fine if you're actually having seminars and you're talking about investment-related activities. It's not so fine if that's not what you're doing, and this is just a big joyride.
Ed, what about the argument that, one of the biggest investors, or the biggest investor in private equity right now, are pension funds? They are pension funds from states. They're teachers. They're firefighters. Maybe the manager of their fund knows what's going on, but the average teacher or cop who is the real investor in private equity right now doesn't know that the person that's managing their retirement fund is flying around in a G5. Maybe that gives the SEC the right to get involved.
And there's a lot of gray areas here. I mean, that in Dallas, I know that there was one situation where there was a lot of flying around by I think the city of Dallas pension, and there were a lot of private, parties and flying around the world. So it's gray, and that's the best way of putting it. So we're in agreement on a lot of this. It has to be disclosed. It has to be in everyone's best interest.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
Jenice, let me give you the last word on this. Do you think that this is going to get any traction, that they're really going to be able to get in there and make some noise?
Not only are they going to be able to get in there and make some noise, but they're going to create a whole new set of rules. There's nothing a regulator likes more than to create rules. And that's what they're in there formulating right now, figuring out what new rules can we put on these people.
Reds, what a great idea. More regulation, more paper. Let's do it.
Yes.
Thanks to both of you. You were
Absolutely.
great.
Thank you.
All right, coming up on Money.